Hey, what's good everybody? It's your boy, Seethruthescript here, back with another video, and today our focus is on the Canadian rap star, Drizzy Drake. With one of the craziest runs in modern hip-hop history, there's no doubt to be signs of entry into the doors to success, a concept the rapper Nori referenced on an interview with DJ Vlad years ago. For those unfamiliar, the doors to success is basically this notion that celebrities and entertainers alike have to go through these three doors when they reach a certain level in their career regarding their fame and financial status. These doors comprise of making some sort of ritualistic sacrifice, some suspect activities, or lastly, the independent route. But of course, the lore is that those who explore the first two doors tend to see the most fame, money, awards, and all that comes with it. For some of you watching, you might already be hip to what goes on with a big artist like Drake, but the majority are completely oblivious, or rather choose not to see it, as they hold the artist in such high regards due to their musical impact. So in this video, I want to go through the main conspiracy theories that float around Drake's name and let you, the viewer, come to your own conclusion on whether or not Drake has fallen victim to the doors of success. But as usual, let's get a little backstory to understand how it all came about. Aubrey Drake Graham, the rapper known as Drake, entered the world on October 24th, 1986 in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. His parents, Sandy and Dennis Graham, both played a crucial role in his early life. Sandy, his mother, worked as an English teacher and florist, while Dennis drummed alongside rock and roll musicians like Jerry Lee Lewis. His father's side was Catholic, while his mother came from an Ashkenazi Jewish background. And Jewish law states that if your mother is Jewish, that ultimately makes you a Jew, and Drake certainly embraced that side of his faith more. Drake initially grew up in Toronto's Weston Road area until around the 6th grade, when he and his mom would move to the more affluent Forest Hill neighborhood. Drake's middle-class upbringing provided a comfortable environment. Living in a 3-bedroom home, he attended Forest Hill Collegiate Institute for a bit, then he transferred to Vaughan Road Academy, another high school in Toronto, where he explored his interest in the arts. Drake's early introduction to the entertainment industry came through his father's connections. Attending various musical performances with his father exposed him to the world he would later navigate. However, his parents' divorce when he was just 5 had a significant impact on his emotional development. Just as Drake was entering high school, he'd end up exploring the world of acting, auditioning for the role of Jimmy in the Canadian teen drama series Degrassi: The Next Generation. Despite his budding success in acting, Drake's true passion was music, evident in the mixtapes he began releasing, showcasing his evolving talent as a rapper and lyricist. Drake's ascent to rap stardom is a tale marked by rejection and perseverance. His journey began in 2006 when Jazz Prince, the son of Rap-A-Lot Records founder Jay Prince, discovered Drake on the then popular social platform MySpace. At the time, Drake had released a demo tape and mixtape, showcasing his love for hip-hop merged with his unique style. Jazz Prince recognized his potential and played a pivotal role in connecting Drake's talent with the right ears. One of those ears belonged to Lil Wayne, the iconic rapper and Young Money Entertainment founder. Drake's music initially failed to resonate with Lil Wayne, who dismissed it outright. However, Jazz Prince, determined to prove Drake's worth, took matters into his own hands. He played one of Drake's tracks in the car with Lil Wayne, and he noticed Wayne bobbing his head, eventually asking Jazz Prince who that was, and this is when he mentioned that it was Drake, the artist he wasn't messing with. But Lil Wayne changed his tone after hearing a few more songs and suggested Prince contact him and set up a flight so the two could meet. Drake, of course, being skeptical of Jazz Prince's claims to make him a star and even introduce him to a hip-hop notable like Lil Wayne, he still decided to go through with it. Eventually, 3 years after dropping his first mixtape, Drake inked his first major deal with Young Money Entertainment in 2009. His earliest mixtapes such as So Far Gone and comeback season garnered attention for their introspective lyrics and seamless blend of rap and R&B influences. Collaborations with artists like Trey Songz and Bun B on his third mixtape So Far Gone helped to solidify Drake's position in the rap scene. Now, although Drake didn't come from a life of poverty and struggle, as many artists in the rap and hip-hop lane do, his rise wasn't without its challenges. Being a light-skinned Canadian Jewish-born rapper was far from the norm, and despite his music resonating with many, there was a lot of resentment towards his success from certain circles. Fueling the resentment, there was a memorable moment on Funk Flex Radio that raised eyebrows. When prompted to freestyle, Drake pulled out his phone, a move that didn't set well with hardcore hip-hop fans.
That shit is fucking trash, dog. Get the fuck.
This incident only furthered the perception among hip-hop heads that he might not be the skilled MC he claimed to be. Plus, unlike most his rap peers, his early subject matter revolved around his longing for women, rather than the "I get a lot of bitches" tone we're used to hearing. Even singer T-Pain, known for his simp anthems, called Drake the king of simp music, which is an interesting topic in itself, but that's a whole other conversation, I guess. However, the very things that would make him appear as soft in the eyes of some are the very things that allowed him to garner a huge fan base. And with this huge fan base, Drake was continuing to grow, becoming the go-to artist for features and working with hip-hop heavyweights like Eminem and Jay-Z. But again, Drake's rise wasn't always golden. In 2012, the legendary DMX was on The Breakfast Club when they had asked him for his take on Drake, and, well, here's what he had to say.
What about Drake? You like Drake?
No.
My man.
He didn't even say a little bit there. Now, why don't you like Drake?
I don't like anything about Drake.
I
I don't like his voice. I don't like what he talks about. I don't.
See, I be trying to
I don't
tell
like his
these
face.
people.
I don't like the way he walks. Like nothing. I don't like his haircut.
However, despite getting criticized by one of hip-hop's best, he seemed to take it on the chin and continued to top the charts. Then fast forward to 2015 when Drake started the year strong with his mixtape If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. More serious controversy would come his way. On the 21st of July, about 3 weeks after Meek Mill had dropped his second album with a feature from Drake, he went off accusing Drake of having a ghostwriter. This sent shockwaves throughout the hip-hop community and put Drake in a really tough spot, mainly because he still wanted to be known as an MC amongst his peers and fans. Plus, true hip-hop fans know that if you ain't writing your own stuff all the way through, that's gonna take you out of the equation when it comes to the best MCs. And although it's been almost 10 years since said accusations were brought to light, I think it's fair to say that this event definitely put a dent in Drake's legacy as an MC. Yet in the grand scheme of things, it didn't really affect his career, sales, or fame-wise. In the years following this incident, Drake would slowly start to take on this tough guy persona in an attempt to shake off his past image as the soft rapper. I mean, it definitely helped being the go-to guy for a hit song for so long, to the point where people just had to acknowledge his success, whether they were a fan of his or not. Even 50 Cent, one of the biggest rap artists in the game, once said,
How unprecedented is Drake's run, though? Like this has never happened before this long.
Yeah, this is broken. Our whole culture is broken. They're finding a new way to do things. It's almost, he's a hybrid, right? Being a rapper and an R&B singer at the same time, and then it's easier to stay longer being more R&B singer than rapper.
So with all that said, many fans and aspiring artists look at Drake as the golden standard for success in the music industry. And as I usually explain on this channel, reaching these heights of fame always comes at a cost. Sometimes it might be at the expense of your morality, while other times it might mean you lose someone close to you. I know that might sound strange to some, but just stick around until the end and I think you'll get an idea of what I mean. In 2017, Drake was riding high off the success of his fourth studio album, Views from the Six. This album had his highest first week sales ever, and he would continue to keep his foot on the gas by releasing another project titled More Life on the 18th of March. However, sadly, there wouldn't be more life for one of his longtime friends, an OVO affiliate. On September 14th of 2017, Anthony Cerez, commonly referred to as Fifth, a close friend of Drake's, was brutally shot by two men at a Toronto apartment building while he was waiting to be buzzed in. The tragic scene was captured on security footage, which depicts two gunmen quickly approaching the entryway, firing off multiple rounds, causing Fifth to immediately drop, left defenseless, while one of these gunmen makes sure to rub his fingerprints off the door while firing two more shots to ensure the job was finished. News reports were quick to point out that Fifth was a friend of the Toronto artist, and in the days following his death, Drake would attend his funeral as a pallbearer. What's pretty crazy is that it's been over 6 years since Fifth's tragic murder, and the Toronto police still haven't found the killers, despite acknowledging that it appeared to be a targeted killing by someone close to him. With that said, let's get into the numbers real quick. Fifth, who was 33 years old at the time of his death, died on a date with 33 numerology, and as we know, his death was pretty big news in the city due to his friendship to the rap star Drake and the nature of the event. I also noticed that both their stage names have that 21 connection in the full reduction cipher. We'll get into the significance of the number 21 later into this video. Next, you can see that Fifth was pronounced dead on the 14th of September. The word dead equals 14 in 2 out of the 4 base ciphers. Now, a number we often see in murder cases is none other than 34, and notice his first name, Anthony, matches with the cause of his death. But his surname equates to 40, matching the date numerology of his death. Plus, he so happened to die 40 days before Drake's upcoming birthday that year. Using the reverse ordinal, you'll notice the phrase blood sacrifice equates to 257, and Fifth, Drake's longtime friend, was killed on the 257th day of the year. Finally, we know that the reason this made big headlines was obviously because he was friends with one of the highest selling hip hop artists in the game. So I just happened to notice that the phrase Drake's friend, as they used in the headlines, equates to 60, matching the prime date numerology of when Drake's friend actually died.
Sergeant Gary Giroux, who will be providing an update into homicide number 39 of 2017. Into homicide number 39 of 2017.
Now, to commemorate his late friend, Drake would go on to tattoo Fifth's face with the phrase Forever Fifth above it on his left forearm, along with a little clever wordplay by releasing his 5th ever mixtape 3 years later, with the back cover having a tribute picture to his late friend Fifth. The tape also happens to be 14 tracks long, and Fifth died on the 14th day of the month. If we really want to get technical, reducing the number 14, 1 plus 4, gives us 5. And again, this tape is his 5th mixtape in tribute to his late friend Fifth, released on the 5th month of the year, aka May. Again, these entertainers' release dates always seem to be curated by the numbers in some way.
This is my alter ego. Anita Max Win.
Now, aside from the very suspicious death of Drake's longtime friend, just a year after his highest selling album came out, Drake had already shown signs of entering door 2 just before he had to make a blood sacrifice. I'm specifically referring to the time they had Drake on SNL impersonating Rihanna, singing her part on their track Work. They had Drake throw on a wig, and after like 20 seconds of wearing it, he quickly throws it off his head, likely embarrassed he had to do it in the first place.
Embarrassing!
Now, although this isn't the most extreme example of feminizing men, it was sure to get worse. In 2023, Drake had broke the internet when he had made a post wearing some nail polish and posing hella fruity. It appeared that his earlier sacrifice of a friend was simply just not enough, and as most should understand by now, that the pursuit for fame and money is endless, and the devil will never hesitate to make you compromise more and more.
That was real real gay, man.
Unlike Kanye West or Michael Jordan, Drake clearly wasn't down to give up someone like his parents, so he's left in a compromising situation, and it looks like he's been forced to start exploring the second door to success much more openly in what appears to be a humiliation ritual. We've known from time how the entertainment industry has an agenda to destroy masculinity in many ways, and by using celebrities, especially ones who men look up to as the guys who get all the women, money, and power, to make them act sus in front of the masses. This is done for multiple reasons. Firstly, it's to remind the entertainer that they're just merely puppets at the hands of capitalism and corporations, while also misguiding young men to devalue their masculinity in hopes that their soul slips into the hands of the rainbow cult. All right. That's a little extreme, but I think you see where I'm going with this. Realistically, who better than Drake, the man at the top of the rap game, to get him to act real fruity? As of now, Drake's been seen wearing nail polish, matching it with his outfits, and rocking little rainbow colorful hair clips and beads in his hair like a little girl would. Like, I think it's clear they're attempting to get arguably the biggest artist of our generation pushing that fruity agenda. I mean, think about it. We've seen it countless of times with male entertainers dressing in drag or just straight up doing some suspect activities. And we've also heard from these same entertainers how the industry kind of pressured them into doing so.
Because I dealt with this personally on a personal level, and I would love to have some discourse with you about the emasculation of the black man, right? Specifically in the media.
Just recently, Cat Williams, longtime comedian, broke the internet with his appearance on Shannon Sharpe's podcast, where he talked about how he never wore a dress despite being asked several times, and associates that with selling your soul. So as the years go by, we see more examples of entertainers pushing the madness, while a small few randomly decide to speak out about it. But in Drake's case, I think it's clear to see what agenda they got him pushing. In 2008, Drake and his two close friends, Noah Shabib and Oliver El Khatib, came up with their collective name, which would serve as the official branding and imagery for Drake's movement, called October's Very Own, or OVO for short. Rather than me describing how they came up with the name, I'll let Drake explain it for you.
October's Very Own. Explain, why is it October's Very Own?
Well, October's Very Own, first of all, is it's like the epicenter of this whole Drake movement and this whole, this whole thing that we have going on. And it's October's Very Own because all of our birthdays are in October. So we just, it's the place to go. It's a blog that you can go to and, get all the songs and just, be in tune with our life.
Now, albeit short and sweet, Drake states it's because all three of the creators' birthdays are in the month of October. But what if there's a more sinister meaning behind it all? Quick side note, there's a whole deeper story about the OVO Owl logo and who originally designed it, but that's not the focus of today's video, as my attention is on why Drake might have really chose to align himself with the owl imagery. For those unaware of the meaning and symbolism behind the unique bird that is an owl, let's take a little time to get educated. My first source is the book The Encyclopedia of Witches, Witchcraft, and Wicca. On page 256-257, the owl is associated with death, sorcery, and the dark underside of life. To the ancient Egyptians, the owl represented night, death, and cold. The Bible, Leviticus, says the owl is an unclean bird. The ancient Greeks, however, viewed it as a sacred symbol of wisdom, for the owl was the constant companion of Athena, goddess of wisdom. The ancient Romans considered the bird a bad omen, presaging death. Caesar's murder was announced by the screeching of owls. Besides death, the hooting of an owl foretells illness, bad weather, and the loss of virginity of a village girl. In European and American folklore, various charms could counteract the owl, throwing salt in a fire, turning one's pockets inside out, or tying knots in a handkerchief. The Aztecs equated owls with evil spirits, including one regarded as the enemy of the human race, whose name was Rational Owl. In Africa, owls are feared because they are instruments of sorcerers. To North American Indians, the owl is a bird of ill omen, either the harboring of death or a messenger from the dead. The Sauk believe that if the owl is seen at night, it will cause facial paralysis. Chippewa medicine men stuff the skin of an owl with magic ingredients and direct it to fly to a victim's house and cause starvation. Folk healers in Peru use owls to combat negative sorcery. In Peruvian myth, the owl woman is associated with shamanistic rituals and magical curing. Demons in the forms of owls supposed attended witches, accompanying them on their broomstick flights and running errands of evil for them. Magicians and healers used owl feathers as a charm to lull people to sleep. In some cultures, the owl has long been respected. In India, eating owl eyeballs is said to give a person night vision. The Kiowa Indians of North America believe medicine men turn into owls at death. So clearly, just from that one source, we can gather that the owl has a pretty dark aura, but of course, one could argue that it's not that deep, and Drake and his team just used it because these guys are night owls and always stay up late due to their lifestyle. But get this, during the Middle Ages, the owl, aside from being the symbol of death of many cultures, tribes, and religions, they also served as the perfect description for none other than a Jew. So let me explain. Befitting the agenda of the medieval church, the owl was the perfect animal to represent the Jews. According to the church, no other group turned away from Christ more divisively than them. Anyone who was not with Christ was with the devil, and consequently evil. Evil dwells in darkness and is unclean, just like the owl. I say all this because 2 out of the 3 men that had came up with this name are Jewish. That being Drake and Noah, also known as 40, the producer/engineer. And it's just fascinating, granted all the meaning behind the symbolism of the owl, that the biggest Jewish rapper in the game would decide to brand himself with it. In 2015, after spending years making quite the name for himself in the rap industry, Drake took it upon himself to take on the title of the Sixth God. He did this through his 4th mixtape titled If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. This mixtape, with its simple cover art, displays the prayer hands directed at the 6 hovering above them. So there are a few perspectives to consider here. You might interpret it in the way the artist likely intends, that the 6 symbolizes the 6 local boroughs of Toronto and the inclusion of the 2 major area codes, 416 and 647, emphasizes Drake's prominence in this region. While this interpretation might resonate with the average listener, I'm quite confident that, akin to the symbolism of the owl, there's more to this than meets the eye. So let me explain. The number 6 ties directly to the planet Saturn and the occult representation of Saturn. But before we get into the number 6, it'll help to explore the link between Drake and Saturn first. Earlier I mentioned how, during the Middle Ages, Jews were characterized as owls because owls stayed in the dark, rejecting the light, and medieval Christians felt the Jews were the biggest rejectors of Christ's light, choosing to remain in the dark. Well, the planet Saturn is also tied directly to the Jewish people. Prominent Roman historians such as Tacitus and Cassius, as well as church fathers like St. Augustine, acknowledged a special link between Saturn and Saturday, the holiest day of the week for the Jews. That Jewish society of the Talmudic period recognized the same association is shown by the fact that the Babylonian Talmud refers to Saturn as Shabbatai, the star of Shabbat, Saturday. Greek and Arab astrology, however, considered Saturn to be the most malignant of the 7 planets, and thus the Jews, astrologically governed by Saturn, were considered to be contaminated by the planet's wicked nature. During the Islamic Golden Age, the scholar Al-Kabisi, also known as Al-Kabitius, made notable contributions to both mathematics and astrology. One of his most recognized achievements is the development of the Al-Kabitius house system within astrology. Al-Kabisi was also known for his claim that the faith of Judaism was based around the planet Saturn. Reading from Eric Zafran's journal article, Saturn and the Jews, It states, Alcibiades's description can serve as a prototypical example of the negative concept of Saturn. He is bad, masculine, in daytime cold, dry, melancholy, presides over fathers, over old age and dotage, and worried, the lowborn, the heavy, the dead, magicians, demons, devils, and people of ill fame. All this when his condition is good, but when he is evil, he presides over hatred, obstinacy, care, grief, lamenting, evil opinion, suspicion. Further, he presides over miserly gains, over old and impossible things, far travels, long absence, great poverty, avarice. He has the faith of Judaism, black clothing, of days Saturday, and the night of Wednesday. To him belong everything whatsoever that is black, and goats and bullocks. Of course, Saturn doesn't necessarily have the same dark traits that a large sect of scholars, astrologers, and theologians once characterized it as, but it's surely a notion that many till this day still see as very fitting. Again, it's important to acknowledge how this connection between Saturn and the Jews wasn't held by just one person in one part of the world, but something that others also made connections to as well. Now, I mentioned all of that history behind Saturn and the Jews because, after all, we are talking about none other than Drake, arguably the biggest hip-hop artist in the game, who himself is a Jew in a crooked industry run predominantly by, well, Jews. And just for a little more context, Drake was previously signed to Cash Money via UMG-owned Republic Records, and has effectively re-signed to UMG with the new deal, which covers recordings, publishing, merchandise, and visual media projects. The CEO of UMG Universal Music Group, Lucian Grange, is none other than a Jew. And he once jokingly said,
If ever Drake or whenever Drake calls up and says he needs more money for his project, I give it to him.
He is dead serious.
I think it's fair to say, just granted how Drake's career has gone over the years, that he's real cozy when it comes to his relationship with the higher authorities within the industry. Now, here's where it all ties back to why I believe Drake really refers to himself as the God, especially knowing what we do regarding Saturn and his peoples. For starters, Saturn is the sixth planet in our solar system and is connected to the sixth day of the week, which is Saturday. Drake again calls himself the sixth god in relation to the 6 boroughs of Toronto. Well, using gematria, we could see that Drake, his stage name, in the most pure cipher equates to 21, along with the name Saturn. And I know you're probably thinking like, wait, I thought we were talking about the number 6, so why are you bringing up the number 21? And for those that are familiar with this stuff, they already know this, but for those that are new, 21 has a mathematical relationship to the number 6, being it's the 6th triangular number. And the number 6 takes us to none other than the Star of David, the symbol widely associated with the Jews. However, this symbol, a hexagram, has a long history and many names, from the Star of Remphan, Seal of Solomon, and many more. There are tons of sources that have linked this symbol to the worship of Saturn and occult practices. In addition to that, it has long been observed that there is a hexagon on the north pole of Saturn. A hexagon, as we know, is comprised of 6 points, and what's interesting is that within a hexagon, if you were to draw lines connecting each point, like you see here, you can create what they call the Necker cube, which is a 2-dimensional view of a 3-dimensional cube. The cube and Saturn have long been associated with each other, and their association could vary depending on who you ask. From what I've understood was that the cube is associated with limitation, as Saturn was the father of time, and of course time creates limitation, which is why Kronos, aka Saturn, would eat his own children to avoid them taking over. He didn't want to be limited. This is where that notion of blood sacrifices comes from, at least in conjunction with the planet Saturn. However, think about how Hollywood has always portrayed the cube as this magnificent force that was to be praised in films, TV, and even music videos. In the film Transformers, a big focal point of the movie is the Allspark cube, And here's what Optimus Prime said regarding the cube. Quote, "Before time began, there was the cube. We know not where it comes from, only that it holds the power to create worlds and fill them with life. That is how our race was born." End quote. The writers seem to be alluding to this idea of Saturn's time matrix and its emanating power through the frequency Saturn emits, eventually reaching Earth, and this is all referenced through the cube. So as you could tell, there's a lot of angles to cover when one talks about the planet Saturn and all of its meaning. And I do plan to make an updated video from the one I made a couple years ago, but for those that want to see it, click the link to the top right of your screen. Regardless, this all ties back to the number 6 because a cube has 6 faces, and when you think about the cube, it's a symbol that permeates throughout our society beyond pop culture without a glance of an eye. From the Kaaba in Mecca, the Jews wearing the tefillin on their head during prayer, to the cross symbolizing a cube when folded together. It's clear that there's this connection to Saturn, the number 6, the cube, and the hexagon. Another quick important meaning for the number 6 comes from none other than the Bible, where it states God created man on the 6th day. I say all this because it seems apparent that Drake is aligning himself with the symbolism that people of his faith were often tied to in the past and still are till this day, and let's be real, the things I've referenced unfortunately weren't positive in many ways. But at the end of the day, it's not uncommon for prominent celebrities' merch lines and branding to often incorporate references to the occult or elements linked to evil, if you will. But as I often emphasize, it's up to you to make up your own mind on whether you think there's merit to what I've shared today. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and like always, you know the drill. Be sure to smash the like button, drop your boy a comment, and give me your thoughts, share the video, and most importantly, subscribe, man. Remember, all of those things are free to do. It's been your boy Script, and I'm out of here. Peace. 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 Peace.